tans were beautiful. The way they moved was so provocative, showing us everything we wanted to see while hiding just a little bit. Sometimes. That's a class move there. A good stripper has class moves. You know what I'm talking about, guy. Now, if I had to see that for 10 years, guy, I don't know how this changed you as a human. I would have seen the best and worst things that a human could possibly see in that joint. Because you got your guys coming in. You got them acting like animals. You got the women manipulating. They're trying to get paid or get their drugs or both. Okay? They're not looking to give it up just for nothing. You got to have some money. Everything costs here at the strip club. Then you got the guys that want to fight each other, or they're ugly, mean drunks. You got that you're looking at. Maybe a couple of shootouts. You got Rick, herpes. There you go. Herpes, like Eddie, was it Eddie Murphy said? They're like luggage. You don't ever get rid of that shit. Other things, there's diseases. And, but what did we want? We wanted someone who looked like a stripper, but who behaved more like, I don't know, Mother Teresa. I mean, someone very, condoms, well, condoms break, man. Andrew says condoms. He's coming from that Australian angle, and they got their shit together. Now, here's the thing, though, guy. What did that do to you? Take away the strip club. Replace that with an office job, all right? You're managing a 15-person section in a manufacturing company. You're handling the technical orders that they write. How does that change the way you look at life? Compare that to the way you think of people today. Because you saw the best and worst on a nightly basis of human behavior. So much fakeness, so much desire that went unrewarded because a game was going on under the table. I could not have done it. I'm so glad I did not do that. Andrew says, I dated a stripper for 6 months. It was okay, but I'll bet you didn't love her. Yeah. Guy says, I always looked forward to kicking out the dirtbags who already spent their paycheck and thought I understood credit. God, no, I am not able to work in a normal environment. I hear you. Well, I know what you're talking. I actually ran a tab once at a bar in Alaska. Yeah, that's when you know you're drinking too. I mean, I wasn't, I drank maybe on average 4 nights per month. I go out every other weekend or so, both nights. So it wasn't like a big deal to me, but I would run out of cash because I'm one of those guys that once I have that fourth drink, I want 40 drinks. I don't know what that's about. I think it's a precursor to alcoholism, but yeah, I had that. Jake Tapper. Didn't expect him to respond to me today. So let me tell you a little bit about Jake Tapper. Who knows Jake Tapper, right? CNN anchor, does his normal thing, sounds normal as a newscaster would, seems pretty intelligent. But what did the Jake Tapper do today? I'm watching the news, and they've taken, I like to keep my eye on Fox and MSNBC because they're essentially warring parties, if you will. But CNN brings me back toward the middle. It's not really the middle, it leans left, but close enough. So I'll bounce around between those as I'm looking for TV news. And I see Jake Tapper coming on. And here's his attitude as he's talking about these journalists and cartoonists that were killed, murdered in cold blood by Muslim extremists in France. Now, if you want to know how someone should sound, if someone in their very own field has been murdered for exercising their freedom of speech, then what you could do is look at the way our announcers were acting after 9/11. Okay, that was a much bigger scale. Sure, it was in America, sure. But take a look at the way Jake Tapper behaves, if you care to look this up, when he's interviewing the Navy SEAL that almost kicked his ass. Because Jake Tapper, he goes a little bit out of line. He's super left, I think. I mean, I'm just guessing, but he's basically saying the war was a waste, and did you ever feel helpless because basically everything you did over there was without a purpose? And the Navy SEAL sitting there beside Mark Wahlberg got a little fired up, and I'm surprised he didn't break his fucking neck, to be honest with you. I expected to see Jake Tapper in the obituaries the next day. But the whole time he's talking to this guy, Jake Tapper's like, yes, and this is very sad. It's a sad story. War. Today, he's talking about the people in France, and he's like, talking about it as if he was talking about fucking St. Patrick's Day parties that were coming up in Boston. And today in the news, doesn't matter what I'm saying, just listen to my tone. Everybody killed. I said, what the fuck am I looking at? What just, I'm working on my radio shit, trying to get it ready, and I see this guy talking about this terrorist attack like he's about to read the weekend's picnic plans or something. Everybody else on that network and others has a bit of a somber tone to their voice. Because this is a big deal. It might only be 12 people, but look at what the attack really was on. It's a big deal. Especially for journalists. They should feel like it hit them in the personal balls, not the professional balls. And here he is, sounding like he's a little girl that's about to get into a game of hopscotch. Here comes the news. So I said something on Twitter. I'm not going to run you through it. You can go look it up. I said, hey, Jake Tapper, I was wondering if you could not sound like you just won a small lottery when you're speaking to us about the deaths of journalists after a terrorist attack upon them. And he writes back and says, I think it's in your head. I don't think it's in my voice. And I write back, well, it is in your voice. Review your intro. Compare it to what you're saying. Compare your tone. He said, literally, you're the only one that thinks this. And I wrote back, do you really believe that? You really believe I'm the only one that thinks that? I said, do you understand tone? Tone. Who talks about terrorist attacks on someone in their own field? There's supposed to be a brotherhood in every occupation, and that includes journalism. And those of us that are huge, huge defenders of First and Second Amendments, but especially First in this case, we feel it a little harder if it's a big deal to us than the average person might, because the average person is going to say, what? This doesn't affect my life. This doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect my job. It doesn't affect my government. Everything stays normal here in America. This happened in France. And that's the way he was acting, because he cannot see the big picture. So I finally, these tweets went back and forth, and all his little groupies came in defending him and shit, and I slapped all of them down too, like goddamn whack-a-moles on a broken game, and I said, listen here. I said, Jake Tapper, do me a favor. I would like you to compare your tone in the Navy SEAL video interview with your tone on tonight's 5 p.m. broadcast, Eastern Standard Time on CNN, and get back to me. Now, I haven't heard back from him yet there, but I want to hear back. And at first I thought I was special. I was like, hey, Jake Tapper's tweeting to me, yay. But I realized that he kind of engages a lot of people during his broadcasts. And that was another thing I wrote to him. I said, you're actually tweeting me on the breaks during your broadcast? I said, that would explain a lot. Look, I didn't hate Jake Tapper before, but now I think he's a slimy motherfucker, because I can see through the very thin veil that he's wearing, pretending to be concerned about people. Don't fucking pretend to be concerned about people. You either are or you aren't. If you aren't, be like Guy Shea and say it. Guy Shea and I probably only agree on 30 or 40% of politics, but I love the guy because he's fucking honest. Honesty is gorgeous. It's beautiful. Everybody needs to be doing this. If you're racist, just say you're racist. Oh my God. So today, let's walk away from Jake Tapper, the Fapper, for a minute and talk about dislikes. Who here in the chat room is a big fan of dislikes? Any hands going up? I'm not going to beat on the guy. I think he's younger anyway, and I've done some dumb shit when I was younger. I mean, drinking piss kind of sets the stage, doesn't it? You don't generally go from drinking piss to major success quickly. If you like him, good. God, it's fine. Follow him, support him. But here's what I'm going to recommend you do. I'm not going to talk about him on this show because he found my line for freedom of speech today, folks. Today I asked a question in my little Facebook page. We have like 70 people in there, so it's nothing. But literally, it's for people that have balls. I wanted people that had real broadcasting balls to show up in this group. And so far as I know, the people in there do. And he either got invited or I invited him or something. And I'm just going to let you read up on that. trust me, you're going to want to know what happened. I just don't want to talk about it here on the air. I made mistakes when I was younger. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking, but I found a line today. Where's your line on freedom of speech? Anybody? Put it in the chat room. I'm curious if it's different over there in Australia for you, Andrew, and I'm also curious if you're back from Thailand yet, so please update me there. What do you think is over the line as far as what you A, post on the internet, B, say out in a public forum, meaning in public, literally public, not an internet forum, or C, put on a radio show? What's over the line? Where's the line? Is there no line? Do you think absolutely any words, photos, video, etc. should be able to be posted? What's your line? Well, there you go. Apocalypse just shared it. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to feel like I'm attacking someone who might have just fucked up slightly. I just know that I had to separate myself from him. I can't feel comfortable supporting him in any way at this point. You guys can look and decide for yourself. Maybe you'll say, Kevin, hey, freedom of speech. You were talking about freedom of speech. Let the man say what he wants. You might say that. I just found my line. I just can't, I've never had anybody challenge my line like that, and it was so ironic that it was on a post about having balls to go out and use your freedom of speech. But there comes a point when an innocent victim stands to pay a price where I go into kind of anti-bully mode. And I basically see anybody's rights getting infringed upon. It sort of pisses me off, and I don't know why. But I had to do something. There's a limit, If you can't think of one, think harder. You'll find a limit. What would you not say in public, in writing, sharing photographs or video, or in a radio show? Where would you draw the line? Now, most of us do in this business very much appreciate the freedom of speech. I love exercising that right. And if you're an American citizen who's not a felon, I'm going to put a condition on it, I would die today to defend your right to continue to say what you want to say. Even what he said, if that right were infringed upon. But there's a limit. I'm not even going to go over it again. There's a limit. So let's move on. And if you guys want to talk about it more in the chat room, just bring it back up. I don't want to dwell on that. Charlie Hebdo is heroic and racist. I'm reading right now from Slate.com. Charlie Hebdo is heroic and racist. Yes. This article, plus a guy that I saw on the news today, captured what I feel about this. And here's what the guy on the news said. I'm not going to act like this is mine. It's not. He actually sort of made me alert in a sense that I had not been before when thinking about freedom of speech. He said, and he was actually talking about another reporter. We're fourth generation, don't give a fuck here. I get it, man. I get it. Just bear with me. So he's talking about another reporter who said, when you put a gun on the table, in other words, a gun is now in the mix, we have to set taste aside. Taste and what you'll publish has to be put down. Because until that gun is removed off of the table, all we can talk about is that gun and why it's there. What are you going to do with that gun? You're going to limit my freedom of speech. We got to figure that out first. Now, you get the gun off the table, and we'll pull this issue up again and talk about taste, poor taste and good taste. That's the whole point, folks. When you say freedom of speech for the rest of your life, I'd like you to do me a favor. I would like you to add to that, I support, if you do support it, of course, I support freedom of speech, even the stuff that I don't want to hear. Because that's really what's up for challenge. No one's challenging what you want to hear. Oh, I believe in freedom of speech, and then somebody says something you don't like. Is that when you don't believe in it anymore? When I hear someone engaging in basically felony behavior, that crosses a line for me. When there's a child involved, yes. That's where freedom of speech now has a victim, a real victim that it can destroy. If you're older than 18, you're in the clear. Open game on humankind at that point. So this is the truth. And this is written by Jordan Weissman. Charlie Hebdo is heroic and racist. We should embrace and condemn it. I agree. I agree.